Hey everyone, this is Derrick Broze with the Conscious Resistance Network, and today I'm finally going to, do my video on the coronavirus. As some of you might have noticed over the years or months that you've been following, I tend to stay away from mainstream topics. If you want channels out there that are just going to follow the mainstream news and just give you a slightly different perspective of it, go elsewhere, because honestly I think it's a waste of time. It's boring to me. But I tend to wait, I tend to watch, I tend to gather research, and then if there is something, an angle that I can explore, a piece of the puzzle that I might be able to bring that others haven't brought, that's when I choose to do a video. And this is one of those cases where I think that what I'm about to share, it's not that it hasn't been reported elsewhere, but I think the context of what I'm going to provide is something you might not have seen or heard before. But before we get into that, I want to remind you guys to bookmark theconsciousresistance.com, which is my website, my home for all of my content, as well as the content of our other contributors, Johan, Regan, Danilo, and others who join the network and contribute as they can. Bookmark theconsciousresistance.com. Follow us on Minds, on Steemit/DTube, on Discord, on our text list if you want to get updates right to your phone. And of course, if you'd like to support us, do so at Patreon. I recommend you sign up for our email newsletter, because now that it's a new year, we're going to be sending out weekly and bi-monthly newsletter updates. So in case you missed the videos, you'll get it to your email inbox. And if you'd like to support us as well, and you're interested in Kratom, check this out and you can support our efforts. All right, so let's first start by going over to CNN.com and just seeing what is the mainstream talking about at the moment. Second Wuhan coronavirus death outside of mainland China confirmed. Hyundai suspends production in South Korea because of outbreak. Let's see what we're covering here. The coronavirus has killed at least 427 people and infected more than 20,000 globally. Global spread, the virus has been confirmed in more than 25 countries. 2 deaths have been reported outside China. Cruise ship quarantine, around 3,700 people being held on a ship in Japan after a passenger who had departed the vessel tested positive for the virus. International researchers are racing to develop a vaccine, interesting, and halt the virus spread with promising signs. Travel advisory, some countries including the UK. All right, so obviously CNN is not, I do think CNN is part of the fake news industrial complex, but what I'm doing here is just showing you what the message that is being sent to the mainstream. They're just talking about the pandemonium, but let's go a little deeper, right? This one just came out from Zero Hedge via Great Game India, and I will link all these in the show notes. Creator of U.S. Bioweapons Act says coronavirus is biological warfare weapon. And again, like I said, I know other people are reporting this, but we're going to get deep into some context here. It says, in an explosive interview, Dr. Francis Boyle, who is the author of the Biological Weapons Act, has given a detailed statement admitting that in 2019 the Wuhan coronavirus is an offensive biological warfare weapon and that the World Health Organization already knows about it. So Dr. Francis Boyle drafted the U.S. domestic legislation for the Biological Weapons Convention, known as the Biological Weapons Anti-Terrorism Act of 1989, that was approved unanimously by both the U.S. House and both houses of the U.S. Congress and signed into law by President George H.W. Bush. He's a professor of international law at the University of Illinois College of Law. As I said, he drafted the legislation. And in an interview which was given to Geopolitics and Empire, that YouTube channel, he discusses the coronavirus outbreak and the biosafety level 4 lab from which he believes the infectious disease escaped. He believed the virus is potentially lethal and an offensive biological warfare weapon or dual-use biowarfare weapon agent genetically modified with gain of function properties. And he says this is why the Chinese government is trying to cover it up, right? So that's one thing. And if you want to learn more about that, I recommend go seeing this interview. You can also read this article here, of course. One other little point I want to mention to it is that Dr. Boyle's position is in stark contrast to the mainstream media's narrative that the virus originated from the seafood market, which is being increasingly questioned by many experts, including American Senator Tom Cotton of Arkansas. On Thursday, he basically said that there's no evidence that this virus originated at this market with dead animals. He says, as one epidemiologist says, the virus went into the seafood market before it came out. I would note that Wuhan also has China's only biosafety level 4 super laboratory that works with the world's most deadly pathogens, to include, yes, coronavirus. China claimed for almost 2 months that coronavirus originated in the Wuhan seafood market. The Lancet published a study demonstrating that of the original 40 cases, 14 of them had no contact with the seafood market. So that's point one, is that this narrative we're being told that it originated in these seafood markets or these wet markets is not accurate. It doesn't seem to be accurate at the moment. Then there's more concerns here, but I want to hop ahead to this. It says, after the website Great Game India published the story on the coronavirus bioweapon, not only were their databases apparently blocked, tinkered with, and their reports are blocked by Facebook, but they said they were attacked by Foreign Policy Magazine and PolitiFact and BuzzFeed News. And then we go here where India has launched a full-scale investigation against China's Wuhan Institute of Virology. And this is after Indian scientists found that 2019 Wuhan coronavirus to be, quote, not naturally evolved, raising the possibility of it being created in a lab. So these scientists posted this on Twitter, saying that there was claims of it looks like it has insertions of the HIV virus, or it basically saying this looks like it has been genetically engineered or man-made in some way. And of course, those reports, you're not finding those over here at CNN. That's what we call conspiracy theory, right? And fake news. So anybody who suggests that this is anything other than just a typical spread of some virus, and that or if you even suggest that it might be man-made or engineered, or that there's alternative purposes, of course you're going to be censored. So then I want to hop over here to this channel, Spiro, which if you guys haven't seen Spiro, he's recently been doing some good reports. He's only got about 5,000 subscribers, but he's getting lots of views because of his content, so check him out. And this one says, did Bill Gates and the World Economic Forum predict the coronavirus outbreak? An inside look may shock you. And I'm going to link this video. I don't want to just, steal his content. But what he looks at here, and I'm sure, again, most of you have heard of this by now, that an event called Event 201 took place in New York City on October 18, 2019, and it was a high-level pandemic exercise hosted by the Johns Hopkins Center for Health Security in partnership with the World Economic Forum and those familiar people, the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. So this happened 6 weeks before the outbreak actually took place. And what I'm going to share with you guys is you can find these full videos if you go over here to the Center for Health Security YouTube channel, which again I'll link to. This actually has all of the videos. They have a 56-minute, 1-minute introduction, or segment 1 introduction, segment 2 trade and travel discussion, finance discussion, communications discussion, hot wash and conclusion, and then a highlights reel. And these are all from the Event 201 exercise, which was a global pandemic exercise which simulated a coronavirus outbreak. Not what they're calling the novel coronavirus, because of course this is apparently a new virus, but a simulation of a coronavirus. And for those who are unaware, the coronavirus is similar to the sense that the flu virus is, you got the swine flu, the avian flu, these kinds of different things. Well, the coronavirus is a type of virus. It's not like a catch-all name. So there's different types. So the interesting thing, though, is as this is going on, as this event took place 6 weeks ago, 6 weeks before the outbreak was reported, you have this group of people, again, the World Economic Forum, Bill and Melinda Gates, and the Johns Hopkins Center for Health Security. And what this group of people here, they're sitting around this round table, are doing, let's see if we can show them right here. So each of them are basically simulating, okay, how do we respond, each of us from our various fields of expertise, to an outbreak? A simulated outbreak, right? And interestingly enough, scroll down here, guys, look over here what YouTube is recommending to me next. Bill Gates talking about the next outbreak, we're not ready. So what I want to show you guys, if you go into this thing, and here's the communications discussion. Let me see if I can just pull up the transcript. Well, they don't have the transcript saved. But if you watch these videos and you listen to when they talk about fake news, they make it very clear, not only do they mention the possibility of a martial law type situation, but they say something like, we need to get on top of the fake news, and how are we going to handle disinformation and the spread of disinfo? We need to get ahead of that. And again, this is them simulating. So like when the exercise begins, it's like click, the clock begins. Okay, there's an outbreak taking place. How do we respond? And you got this guy in this field says, okay, this is how the military is going to handle it. And you got this guy in this field who said, okay, this is how the CDC is going to handle it. And they're each handling different aspects of it. And of course, like many of you who've been around and know, since 9/11, since the Oklahoma City bombing, since the Boston bombing, since many other events that we would label false flags, there have been drills or exercise taking place literally on the same day or nearby or in the weeks and months ahead of time. And those sometimes provide an indication for what the plan is. That's why this exercise is interesting. Now, if you look at their channel here, you can see, though, they've been simulating things for a while. So it's not like this one Event 201 is the first time they've ever done this exercise. Actually, this one over here, called Clade X Pandemic Exercise, was from May 2018. And in this, again, they say they simulate a series of National Security Council meetings of 10 U.S. government leaders played by individuals prominent in the fields of national security or epidemic response. And if I remember correctly, this one has to deal with some bioterrorist, releasing something into the wild. So now we're going to get to most of what I just said. I'm sure you guys have heard about this. You've heard that people are saying this seems to be a created virus. You've heard that the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation hosted this Event 201, event that seems to be related. But if you haven't actually watched or listened to the Event 201, it's worth it, because, as I said, they really do detail what it seems to be the plan for how they would handle this. And some would say, let's just play the devil's advocate and let's step out of the conspiracy theory box for a moment and say, okay, well, Derrick, if there are outbreaks in the world and viruses, and let's assume that they're not all manufactured and that some of these are legitimate, then you would imagine that the world leaders would want some knowledge of how they might handle such an exercise, right? So doing a simulation, it makes sense. It's not completely crazy to imagine that, if you're a world leader, or even if you say you and your community, you guys practice, how are we going to handle an outbreak? Just like you would do fire drills, just like you would do hurricane preparedness, things like that, right? So that's not completely crazy. But where it starts to get a little weird is what we've seen is in this Event 201, they talk about specifically about having to shut down fake news to stop the spread of misinformation and disinformation. They talk about potential martial law. And I think this is what the goal really is, guys. I believe that what we're seeing here, not only are they prepping us for a potential vaccine, as we're hearing over here, as they say, they're racing to develop a vaccine that you will not dare say no to, because how dare you, be an anti-vaxxer when it comes to a global pandemic. But this is also a method to start censoring people. And here's my case in point. You guys know I write for the website The Mind Unleashed. We recently aggregated an article from Zero Hedge, right? As you can see right here, this is the article by Tyler Durden, which is, the name of the guy who runs Zero Hedge. And let's see if we can click through to the original article, if we have it. No, we might have closed that link. But when we posted this article, which this is not the original title, this is not the title you will find on Zero Hedge if you find the article, we were flagged by Facebook. We were flagged by Facebook, and for those who don't know, The Mind Unleashed has 9 million likes on Facebook, for whatever that's worth these days. And they immediately flagged us, which, if you get flagged on Facebook, it means that you have a strike against you. It means that they're going to shadow ban you. They're going to limit your reach. And, of course, they put a label on you that says you're fake news. So we had that happen. And this label of fake news came from one of Facebook's fact checkers. You guys remember that when this whole BS fake news thing started spreading, which, by the way, those of you who are Donald Trump supporters, Trump helped spread the fake news meme. Yes, he used it to attack the mainstream media, but he helped spread that meme, and now that meme is being used against us. And the fact checkers of Facebook include the AP, they include PolitiFact, Snopes, I think, used to be a fact checker. They're no longer a fact checker. And then there's this website, who is a fact checker, leadstories.com, hoax-alert.leadstories, or you just go to leadstories.com. So 10 days ago, we were contacted by the people at Lead Stories, who, again, are supposedly some Facebook fact checker. And I have a whole other video I'm going to do just about these people, because if you look over here to the right, Lead Story uses the Trendalizer engine to detect the most trending stories from known fake news, satire, and prank websites, and tries to debunk them as quickly as possible. So, of course, they get to decide who's fake news, who's satire, who's prank websites, and they can set that bar however they want. But so, when we posted this article, we got flagged. We got notified that somebody from Lead Stories was going to contact us to help us rectify our situation and make us fix our website so that it is accurate. Now, if you go to this article, all we talk about is that Event 201. that event 201 that we just showed you is a real event. There's no fake news about this. This is a real event of people getting around simulating a coronavirus outbreak only 6 weeks before it happened. Now again, it wasn't the current coronavirus, but it was a coronavirus. And as you can see here, this article has been challenged by lead stories and rated false. So basically, in order for us to get this flag off of our page, we had to add this update here. We had to change the title. We had to go back and forth with email and play the game with the fact checkers. This is not my preferred method. I don't run the Mind Unleashed. I'm just a writer for it, and I'm friends with the people who run it. I probably don't think this is the correct path to take. I think that if we allow these people to keep bullying us and pushing us, they're just going to push us until we're not reporting real news anymore, until we're just reporting fluffy things that nobody else wants to, that won't offend anybody. And as I said, I've started to look into who Ryan Cooper is and who Lead Stories is and who are all the people behind this Trendalizer search engine that helps detect fake news. But my point here is that what Event 201 talked about censoring quote-unquote fake news and disinformation, it's already starting to happen. They're literally going after anybody who even suggests that there's something else more to the story. So what we had to do is we had to add this update. The article has been challenged and rated false. After receiving questions about the pandemic simulation, Johns Hopkins released a statement, and Johns Hopkins makes it clear the Center for Health Security has received questions about whether the pandemic exercise predicted the current novel coronavirus. To be clear, the Center for Health Security and partners did not make a prediction during our tabletop exercise. For the scenario, we modeled a fictional coronavirus pandemic, but we explicitly stated that it was not a prediction. And it's just semantics. Okay, we know they didn't claim publicly that this was a prediction. They just simulated what could happen if this happened. And it just so happened that a similar outbreak took place within 6 weeks later, right? And the simulation predicted that 65 million people could die within 18 months. So all we did is, for one, re-aggregate an article from Zero Hedge. And all the Zero Hedge article did was just report information about a real-life exercise called Event 201. Nowhere at any point did we just make things up and claim that, this is the coronavirus, and they knew that this was going to happen, and this was all, being done by Bill and Melinda Gates. Of course, many of us have our speculations, and we have our feelings about that, but at no point did we ever make that claim. But we are already being attacked by this leadstories.com, this fact checker, and here you go again. The scientist who simulated the global coronavirus outbreak 3 months ago, he makes a chilling statement. And this is the guy who was involved in the simulation. And he basically came out and said that the cat is out of the bag and that China is not likely to contain its spread. His name's Eric Toner. He's a senior scholar with the Johns Hopkins Center for Health Security and a senior scientist in the Johns Hopkins Bloomberg School of Public Health, Department of Environmental Health and Engineering. He said during an interview with CNBC that China's efforts to contain the outbreak are unlikely to be effective. And again, 3 months ago, him, along with the World Economic Forum and the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, took part in a simulation called Event 201, centered around a fictional coronavirus. See how we have to make it clear, not the 2019 novel coronavirus. We have to make that clear because otherwise these freaking fact checkers will claim that we're spreading fake news. It's all semantics because look, the exercise did say hundreds of millions of people will die. The exercise, Event 201, did deal with a coronavirus. No, it was not the specific coronavirus we're dealing now, but isn't it a coincidence that they happen to be simulating an exercise with a coronavirus, and they talk about potentially having to use martial law to stop the spread of this and to shut people down who spread fake news and disinformation? And now the Mind Unleashed, as well as other stories, other websites, are being challenged and are being called fake news. And I'm not going to say I endorse any of these other websites because some of these websites, they probably are making stupid claims. But I know we didn't. All we did was report the facts. And in light of what I just told you about Event 201, check this out. Over in Thailand, a anti-fake news center leads to 2 arrests in Thailand for spreading fake news about coronavirus. They're already doing this. The Anti-Fake News Center is compiling evidence to root out the source of fake news. We're working with the cybercrime police, but I have to admit it's difficult to identify the suspects since they're anonymous. And one of their ministers added that this was a result of a, quote, crackdown on misleading information being posted on social media in relation to the new coronavirus. And there you go. I mean, they're already carrying out the plan. So whether Event 201 had to do with this specific coronavirus or an alternative coronavirus is irrelevant, because the simulation is being played out now. The exercise is being played out now. And let me show you this one as well. Meanwhile, in China, residents forcibly taken away after refusing to be quarantined. This is just being reported today. Of course, it's coming from Radio Free Asia, which, as far as I remember, is definitely funded by the U.S. government. And it's basically like they're trying to spread their propaganda over there in China. But there's video evidence of Chinese party officials barricading an apartment and removing people from their homes and taking them away because they refuse to be quarantined. If that isn't martial law, where they're shutting down entire cities, they're forcibly quarantining people, they're shutting down websites for spreading information, just, asking questions, they're trying to threaten people who spread information about this Event 201 exercise. And like I said, we're experiencing this directly at the Mind Unleashed, where they're trying to pressure us and make us cower to them. So I hope that I've been able to provide you a little more detail about what's going on. I do think that I'm starting to lean more and more towards the reality, or the potential that there's a potential that this could be a completely simulated, bioengineered virus. Was it something done by the Chinese and it escaped from the lab? Was it something released purposefully? We could go on for another hour and speculating about that, but like I said, I don't like to get lost in the speculation. All I know are the following facts. That in October 2019, the organizations of Johns Hopkins University, the Center for Health Security, and the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, with the World Economic Forum, held this Event 201 exercise simulating a global pandemic involving a coronavirus, and they estimated that 65 million people, and maybe even hundreds of millions of people, could die. They discussed censoring people who spread, quote, disinformation and misinformation. They talk about potentially needing to use martial law to get things in order, and we are seeing many of those things play out now. We are seeing a cover-up of people asking alternative questions about what's going on. We are seeing a cover-up of people who discuss the potential that this might have, this simulation, this exercise might be more than what we're being told. They're being called fake news. And in China, and potentially elsewhere, if this virus spreads, they are starting to quarantine people forcibly and shutting down entire cities with millions of people in order to stop the spread of this virus. And like I said, let's take the conspiracy tinfoil hat off for a moment and say, what if the reality is what we're being told? What if this is just an outbreak of a virus? Maybe it makes sense for the governments to start shutting down and trying to quarantine people to stop the spread of it. But that's not the world we live in. We live in a world where tyrants run everything, and those tyrants will take any opportunity they can to take advantage and to strip rights away from the people. Remember, their goal, their method, their strategy is to never let a crisis go to waste and to always take advantage of that. So whether this is a manufactured crisis or a genuine crisis of a pandemic spreading, they're going to take advantage of it. And the other thing is, there will be vaccines for this, and I bet you they're going to be mandatory as this thing spreads around the world. Hopefully I'm wrong, but that's where I'm going to leave it right now, because like I said, I don't want to get lost in the speculation. I've waited a few weeks to even talk about this. I know there's been plenty of other channels talking about it every day, but that's not my style. If you want to hear the mainstream news, from an alternative media person, then go to those channels. But for me, we want to do deeper dives. We want to limit the speculation and bring you the facts. And so this is what I've found based on my research and my digging. And I'm sure there's more to it. Please comment below and let me know what you found. Email me at derrick@theconsciousresistance.com, and I will check the comments. We're going to leave it there. Please remember to like, thumbs up, follow, subscribe, and share. Share, guys. Share this information. I feel like some of you have forgotten the whole point of social media. Share things. Spread information. Get involved. Spread information. And let's wake more people up and get more people questioning the systems of power that don't care about us. Until next time, remember, you are powerful, you are beautiful, and you are free. Peace.